as it came out and then sprung back in. I was here for a game between BU and Cornell, and right in that corner, they had trouble with the glass during that weekend series. I don't know if it's the same paint. It's definitely right in that corner, so I think it is, just by looking at it from our position right here. So we're going to have a bit of a delay here as the Walter Brown Arena crew come out, and they'll bring out the drills, the screwdrivers, the toolkit, every little thing they have to try to get that glass back in there. That problem piece of glass.
Well, you got to be careful, especially when you're sitting down in the front row here. You never know when one of those is gonna give way, especially when you have the players these days are so big. This was this play. Ryan Whitney was on the receiving end of this one from Alesh Dolinar, and you don't want a 6'4", 200-pound guy coming over the boards on top of you.
So we're going to need a couple of seconds here, but you know what? What better game to have a delay than BCBU, because I think we have plenty to talk about when it comes to this. And they're Beanpot teams. And John mentioned at the top of the telecast, they can't say, where's your Beanpot anymore around here. But take it back some memories here. You don't remember this? BU, BC back in '91. This was just after your days, right, Tim?
Yeah, I missed this. I was gone by then. I left in '89. But I heard about it.
You don't want to take any credit for being out there when BU took the Beanpot.
I think this was a game where you just saw Tony Amonte take that hit from Joe Cleary. And I thought that he was not, from what I hear, he was knocked out cold. He came back from that and ended up scoring a hat trick in that game.
And that is absolutely what happened. I'm not a doctor, I can't tell you for sure, but the legend is knocked out, but off the mat to get back in there and knock BC out. We have a few other little snippets to throw at you as we go along here. We'll have a couple of minutes when we come in. $10 each. Scoreless here in the first period, but we have a little delay at Walter Brown Arena. Painted glass knocked loose, so they're up there trying to tighten it up and get everything safe and ready to resume hockey. But the problem is the hitting will not slow down here. So we could have a couple of, what do you call them? Glass pane delays?
Hockey East fans, don't forget to reserve your seats now for the annual Hockey East Championship Tournament.
Well, it gives the coaches a little time. You see Mike Davis there and Jack Parker conversing. A little strategizing going on over there.
Well, they can talk about strategy all they want, but what it comes down to, especially at Walter Brown Arena between BCBU, it's intensity, and it looks like the level gets picked up here at Walter Brown Arena, and Jack Parker agreed pregame.
I think it's a much more emotional and faster game here than it is at BC for both teams. I think both teams play harder here, play with a little bit more verve and a little bit more intensity here. Their rink is much bigger ice surface-wise, and so there's not as much hitting. It's more of a full game, and it's not as, you don't run into people as much as you run into our little bandbox here.
This cozy little bandbox on Babcock Street, and at Walter Brown Arena, Boston College, you see the numbers. You know, it's funny, 83 to 92, BC had a lot of success, and something just popping in my head. Was that the Tim Sweeney era somewhere in there?
We had a lot of success here against BU, I tell you. But the biggest thing that we didn't have success was, I mean, I can remember one year we played, I think it was my sophomore year, we beat them 4 times in the regular season. Lost to them in the Beanpot, lost to them in the Hockey East. Actually, sophomore year we didn't lose them in the Hockey East, but every big game back then, BU did send us back in defeat.
It took a lot for you to step up and say that, Tim. I'm proud of you.
Well,
I'm proud of you.
It happened.
Well, while I fix that pane of glass, let's check back in with John Holt down in that corner. There is quite a bit of Olympic tradition. I'm standing next to a former Olympian right here. John, go ahead.
Well, you make a great point, Eric. In fact, Mike Eruzione, maybe the Olympian of all Olympians from Boston University, will join us in the second intermission. But with the Winter Games coming up in Salt Lake City in February, 7 players from these 2 schools combined will represent BU and BC. We've got Billy Guerin and Ryan Leach for the Eagles, and Tony Amonte and Keith Kachuk and Chris Drury and Tom Pody and Scott Young, if his eye injury allows him to play, representing BU. So some great tradition. We'll see it on display for our country in February.
And of course, things have changed quite a bit, John, back into the Eruzione days and Timmy's days too. I mean, now it's completely influenced by the pros, and that's who goes to play in the Olympics. But when you played in the Olympics, it was tough. It was a challenge for the U.S. team playing against all those other players around the world, but it must have been an incredible thrill, even though you knew you were up against it.
Yeah, it was an incredible thrill. I just think right now, I don't know if it's good for the sport to have the pros playing, but I think it levels the playing ground considerably, because back then, 1980 was truly a miracle when you think about it, because all those Russians were beating all-star NHL teams for a long time back then, so it was truly a miracle, but it should be much more competitive this year. It's going to have to be all the best players in the whole world, so the playing field is certainly level now.
You know, it's funny because we will talk to Mike Eruzione, John Well, during the second intermission, and it's 22 years ago. I mean, hard to believe, but the Olympics are back on American soil, and maybe something good will happen for Team USA. Looks like we're about ready to play some hockey here. We'll take one more break and be back to Walter Brown Arena. BU and BC scoreless here in the first period. Well, the repair work continues here at Walter Brown Arena. That pesky piece of glass just does not want to go right back into place. So we'll see what happens here as they continue to work. Gives Tim and I a chance to take a look at the Hockey East standings. A 4-point weekend for the University of New Hampshire. They are back into first place. UMass Lowell, they host Northeastern tonight. So the Riverhawks can only get to a point behind UNH with a win, but do not count out Northeastern. They beat UML back on Friday, and Northeastern on quite a bit of a roll. We saw that here a couple weeks ago when they shut out BU, Tim. Getting it with goaltending and Kenny Gibson. Lowell, BU in third. Maine with a 4-point weekend as they sweep Merrimack. We'll see the Black Bears in a couple of weeks when UNH makes the trip up to Orono to take on Tim Whitehead's Maine Black Bears at Alfond Arena. Boston College down there in 6th place, a very unfamiliar spot. Providence, after a couple of non-league games this weekend, down in that tie for 6th with BC, and we will see these two teams get together next weekend as BC and PC play a home-and-home, a rematch of last year's Hockey East Championship game. Merrimack hanging on to the 8th spot, which would be the final playoff spot for the Hockey East tournament. And UMass Amherst, tough weekend against UNH. Darren Hadar back at it. And if you were with us last week, Matt Carney, the goaltender for the University of New Hampshire, suffered a concussion. Looks like he'll be out 4 to 5 weeks. That's the best estimate, but with concussions, you never know. But look at this. We've got to bring out the new pane of glass, apparently. And if you ever wondered how they were packaged, now you know. So we're going to take a minute here. John Gravelise is giving his advice. And, well, you know what? They don't want to use it. They like the old stuff. As you can see here, Tim, take a look here. See how high that one is? It looks like they've kind of doing a makeshift, if you don't mind me using your telestrator there.
I love when you use my telestrator. Do we have anybody tall enough to hit it up there?
Well, you know, we talked about Alberts. He's 6'4" for BC. Ryan Whitney's 6'4". We got a couple of big guys out there, so. All right, so they're tightening it up, and hopefully everything's going to be okay, but we're ready to play hockey. But the whistle blows, but we still have some workers out there on the ice, so it's going to take a minute or two.
The only thing that would be worrisome here is, I mean, sometimes the puck will go right out there, and it's going to be out of bounds. It will go out of bounds, as they say, or out of the rink when it shouldn't. It could cause a good play or a good dump to go out of the rink.
So that's one issue, certainly. We've been told down on the truck, Jerry York is wearing a wireless mic, and they've been listening in, and the officials went over and conferred, I'm going to assume, with both coaches, but York said he didn't have a problem using the lower glass. If they think it's safe enough, let's play hockey, and apparently we're ready to play right now at Walter Brown Arena.